It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. I've made no secret of the fact that I consider the MCU to be pretty much a spent force creatively, a big lumbering juggernaut still coasting on the momentum of the Infinity Saga, becoming increasingly bogged down in divisive identity politics, and trying in vain to launch a new lineup of bland, unimaginative, forgettable superheroes. Black Widow was an absolute dumpster fire that gave a beloved legacy character the most ignominious send-off since Luke Skywalker. Shang-Chi was a dull, forgettable fantasy with all the personality of a vanilla ice cream, with no fucking flake in it. While The Eternals was a ridiculous convoluted mess made by a director completely out of her depth that sank under the weight of its own self-importance. And as for the TV shows, don't even get me fucking started on them.
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
But then, right at the tail end of a pretty depressing year in cinema, along came a spider, and totally fucking changed everything. Spider-Man No Way Home is good. Really fucking good.
No way!
You serious?
I know, I'm just as shocked as you are. In fact, a few months ago, I never could have imagined that I'd be singing the praises of an MCU movie, least of all, one of the most lightweight, safe, and cookie-cutter heroes of all, Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But credit where credit's due, and believe me, this movie deserves a shit ton of it. It's been a really fucking long time since I've walked out of a movie theatre absolutely buzzing at what I've just seen, riding the emotional high that comes from experiencing something truly special. No Way Home does the seemingly impossible by giving us a Spider-Man movie with actual stakes and consequences, genuine drama and pathos, satisfying emotional payoffs, and the possibility of redemption, not just for some of the most dangerous villains, but also for a Spider-Man that never got the opportunity he deserved. Now, out of respect for this movie, I'm going to keep my plot summary pretty brief. There's going to be a few spoilers, of course, because it's pretty much impossible to review without giving a few things away. So if you absolutely don't want to know anything about this film, you should probably wait until you've seen it first. Anyway, the plot picks up right after the events of Far From Home. Peter's been unmasked as Spider-Man and framed for the death of Mysterio. Although he escapes prosecution, his global infamy makes him a divisive figure, to the point where it starts to fuck things up for Ned and MJ. Out of desperation, he seeks out Doctor Strange and asks him to come up with a magic spell that'll make everyone forget who he really is and undo the damage he's caused. Unfortunately, the spell goes tits up and opens up cracks in his reality, allowing villains from alternate realities to cross over into Peter's worlds. Before you know it, he's battling classic antagonists like Doc Ock and the Green Goblin without knowing who the fuck they are or why they're trying to kill him. Anyway, the upshot here is that Strange wants to return them to their own realities, knowing that most of them are destined to get killed in battle with their respective Spider-Men. Peter, on the other hand, believes he can help them first, curing them of whatever ailments turned them evil, and perhaps changing their fates before they go back. It's an admirable goal, but unfortunately, not all of them are so receptive to his help, with tragic consequences. Outnumbered and shattered by a personal loss, Peter's in no condition to take on some of the most dangerous enemies that Spider-Man's ever faced. Well, not until he receives some help from an unlikely source. Actually, two unlikely sources. But with Doctor Strange's failed magic spell threatening to undermine all of reality, Peter may just be forced to sacrifice everything he knows to set things right. One of my big criticisms of the MCU Spider-Man films has been their lack of emotional weight, tangible stakes, and real-life consequences. Previous versions of the character really had to struggle with the personal costs of being a hero, whether it was failed relationships, missed career opportunities, or personal tragedies. Whatever it might be, they really underscored the key message that being a hero isn't just about defeating the bad guy and living happily ever after. It's a life that demands great personal sacrifices, and the fact that Peter was willing to do it without getting any real praise or recognition really highlighted the strength of his character. But those vital elements were depressingly absent in the MCU. This version of Peter lives in a nice house in the suburbs, he's got a loyal best friend and a growing relationship with MJ, who quickly figures out and accepts his true identity. He even has a fancy new high-tech suit courtesy of Tony Stark, and well, it all just felt a bit too safe, too comfortable and easy, like a serialized TV show where the characters get into a new adventure each week without any long-term changes to their situation. But that shit goes right out the window here, believe me. This is very much a movie where Peter's choices have real consequences for him, where he's not able to conveniently save everyone, and where he'll come face to face with the true cost of being a hero. It's great fucking stuff and an absolute joy to see what Tom Holland can do when he's given decent material to get stuck into. For the first time, I was actually invested in his version of Peter. I empathised with his losses, I cheered him on in his struggles, and I felt genuinely bad for the guy when I realised what he'd have to give up. Tonally, this movie feels much more in line with the Sam Raimi trilogy than the other two MCU films, which is fucking ideal because Raimi came closest to understanding the character and his place in the worlds. And there's no way I could do this review without talking about the other two Spider-Men, because let's be honest, the prospect of seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield reprise their roles again was pretty much the main selling point of this movie for most people. And I'm happy to say they absolutely hit a home run with this one, giving them both smart, sensitive and respectful character arcs that don't just stay consistent with who they were before, they actually build on it in a logical and satisfying way. Tobey Maguire was always going to be the Spider-Man for me, so I'm not ashamed to say that he was the one I was most excited to see again. And damn, considering he hasn't played the character in nearly 15 years, he's barely missed a beat. Yeah, he's older now and he's a bit rusty at first, but he fits comfortably into the role of a more mature and experienced Peter who's very much been there and done that without losing sight of who he really is. And when it's time to put on the suit again, he's still more than capable of kicking ass. Damn, imagine a hero who's older but still capable, optimistic and true to himself. The movie gives him some funny and poignant moments, especially in the finale, so I was more than happy with how they treated him. But for me, the man of the match has got to go to Andrew Garfield. There's not many people who consider him their favourite Spider-Man, and his own run was cut short by the failure of the second movie, but holy shit, does he redeem himself here. He's forged a pretty successful career as a serious dramatic actor, so it would have been easy for him to turn down a role like this, or even worse, phone in some half-arsed performance for a quick and easy payday. But it's the total opposite here. He's really going for it. You can practically feel how excited and happy he is to be playing Peter again, and the result is that he's a better Spider-Man here than he was in his own fucking movies. This version of Peter is still haunted by the death of Gwen Stacy. He's begun to stray down a darker and more vengeful path, and it's only by learning from the other two that he's able to let go of his guilt and grief. And holy shit, there's a scene right near the end where all of that comes together into one beautiful moment where he finally gets to do the one thing he never could before. As happy as I was to see Maguire back again, ultimately, he got his trilogy and didn't really need redemption here. Andrew Garfield, on the other hand, finally got a chance to put things right, showing us a little glimpse of what might have been, and I couldn't be happier for the guy. Watching all three of them interact, comparing their powers and experiences, is a dream come true for most comic book fans, and it's made even better because all three men have genuinely good chemistry together. You can tell that they're having fun, they're happy to be there, and they enjoy playing off each other. It's the same deal with the antagonists, who all slip back into their roles like comfortable old gloves. Alfred Molina is pitch perfect as Doc Ock, courtesy of a little digital de-aging that's absolutely flawless. He's smart and articulate and proves to be both a dangerous enemy and a useful ally. Just like Garfield, Jamie Foxx gets the chance to redeem himself after the debacle of Spider-Man 2. This version of Electro is much more menacing and power-hungry than before, and gets to pose a genuine threat for once. But the star of the show has got to be Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborne. Fuck me, you'd never think it had been 20 years since he'd played this role. The guy never misses a beat. He's able to swing from regretful and compassionate to malicious and evil in the blink of an eye, and the final battle between him and Spider-Man is a perfect example of emotional payoff over flashy action, proving once again that less is more. Jesus Christ, even MJ looks, talks and acts like an actual human being this time around, instead of a socially challenged Martian that's been temporarily put in charge of a human body. Christmas truly is the time of miracles. When I think about how much I enjoyed No Way Home and what I liked so much about it, I can't shake the feeling that despite all the flashy action scenes and snarky dialogue, this doesn't really feel like a current year Marvel movie. There's no clumsy social commentary, no divisive political posturing, no overpowered and completely unlikable strong female characters, and no mean-spirited deconstruction of legacy heroes and villains. Like Homecoming and Far From Home, this movie was a joint production between Disney and Sony, but it really feels like Sony had a bigger hand in it this time around. And if that's the case, then I'm all in with that shit. There's something wonderfully old-fashioned about this film and its approach to storytelling that reminded me of a time when movies united rather than divided people. It reminded me that superhero films are actually allowed to be fun and magical and uplifting, that they can be an escape from the cares and worries of the real world for a few hours. That they can still make people feel good. It's almost like when you stop trying to push the message and just concentrate on telling a good fucking story, people respond to it. I don't know if this movie represents a turning of the tide, or if it's just an isolated incident that'll be quickly gone and forgotten. But honestly, if anyone in Hollywood still cares about entertaining their audiences and making money, then they do very well to follow the example set by No Way Home. As for me, I fucking loved it, and I give it a wholehearted recommendation. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.